Our very own Gary Neville. Gary, lovely to see you. First of all, how are you?
I'm good, really good, and this is a great game to have on the day one of the season, or the opening weekend. We had some good games already, but Manchester United and Arsenal is a cracker, and yeah, big questions over, obviously at the start of the season, over big clubs always. I think the interesting thing here today is, does Šeško start? How will he do this season? Gyökeres for Arsenal as well, watching him play, so really looking forward to it.
We'll get into all of that, I'm sure. I mean, let's start with Manchester United. How are you feeling about them going into this season? New look front three. You mentioned Šeško there, Mbeumo, Cunha, proven Premier League players. Do you think that's the firepower Amorim desperately needed?
Well, you've got to have hope at the start of every season, and Ruben Amorim really wanted to add firepower, and he's done that. I'm really surprised they spent that level of money. I didn't think they had. I didn't think they could because of PSR, but I didn't think that they had that level of money to be able to invest into the squad. To get Cunha, Mbeumo and Šeško, I think is promising. They look like the right profile. Two of them have played in the Premier League before, so there's not a case of getting used to the league. Šeško obviously is the one that's got maybe a little bit more doubt about him because he's younger, and it's a real pressurised position at Old Trafford being a striker. But if the other two can score goals, it takes the pressure off him anyway, it can bed him in, so it doesn't necessarily mean that all three have to be absolutely amazing. I think if one or two of them can play really well, it means it could cover for the others. So I think for United, it's promising with those three. There are still question marks in midfield, and obviously with the goalkeepers make too many mistakes. And I think if four of that back three, if Shaw, Maguire, De Ligt and Euro, if they can stay fit, they've got three decent centre-backs there, I think, that can do a good job for them. So I think it's more promising, a lot more promising than it was obviously 2 months ago when they lost that game against Tottenham, where it felt like the world was ending a little bit for if you're a United fan.
I wanted to ask you about the midfield. You mentioned it there. If Šeško does start and it's that front three, looks like Bruno Fernandes might play a bit deeper. Who's his ideal partner? We know United have been linked with Carlos Baleba this summer, but do you still think that's an area they need strengthening?
Yeah, it absolutely need a central midfield player to go alongside Bruno Fernandes. I would have hoped that Kobbie Mainoo would have emerged in this last 12 to 18 months to be a real star. It's not quite happened for him. That maybe still could happen, but it doesn't feel like it's happening at the moment. It doesn't look like the manager's totally having him either in that position alongside Bruno. Casemiro, we know, has been a world-class player, but his legs, they struggle to get about the pitch, particularly if you're playing against a great team, and this always feels quite big at Old Trafford. Ugarte just hasn't settled in at all, so you're talking about really an inadequacy in there, and then obviously, like I say, goalkeeper as well. They're the two big positions. If a perfect transfer window would be a top-class central midfield player that's got legs and that can basically sort of mop up in front of that back three, and a goalkeeper that can keep the ball out of the back of the net.
You touched on Šeško as well. I mean, you played with some fantastic strikers yourself. Ruben Amorim told us in his news conference on Friday, Šeško could be United's number 9 for years to come.
He has to be.
But I just wonder what attributes is he going to have to show to do that, because United haven't had a striker that's scored 20 goals since Robin van Persie.
He's going to have to handle everything that goes with playing at this football club, and there's been a lot of examples over the last 10 years where players have come with great reputations, great potential, and it hasn't quite worked out for them. So composure, temperament, confidence, arrogance, to be able to step out here and stick your shoulders out and your chest and say, I am Manchester United's number 9. That takes a lot, you know what I mean? And what I would say is that if he gets off to a good start, it'll make all the difference. We saw Ekitike for Liverpool the other night scoring at Anfield, a young player. If Šeško can do that, I'm torn as to whether he'll play today. I want him to play. I'm desperate for him to play up front with Cunha and Mbeumo and say, right, those three, make it happen. Stick with them for the first 10 games of the season and let them play themselves into form where they can combine with each other. But I've just got a sneaky feeling he might go with Mason Mount. For a couple of reasons. One, to let Šeško obviously have a look at the game and see the sort of scale and magnitude of what he's coming into, but also to drop back into that three in midfield and basically drop onto Zubimendi. He's played in pre-season quite a bit, Mason Mount, so I've got half a feeling he might go with that.
Very interesting. On the Arsenal side of things, feels like there's already a bit of a narrative that they've been so close the last few years. This needs to be the year with their reinforcements that they need to get over the line. I mean, do you share that sentiment, or do you think, Mikel Arteta has shown that steady progress and that actually by just competing they're doing really well in that sense?
Well, I think by getting them to a second 3 years on the trot, he has done really well from where Arsenal have been in the last 10, 15 years. But it's Arsenal Football Club, and I can bounce from one thing to another here. I can say, the parrot on this shoulder will say, basically, he's doing great, he's second, but then the parrot on this shoulder says, hang on a minute, this is Arsenal. Arsenal are a club that should win trophies and win Premier League titles, and have done for many decades. They've been a top team. So if we're accepting second at Arsenal, there's something wrong. So I don't think Mikel Arteta accepts second. I don't think the fans accept second. Will he get sacked if he finishes second? No, I don't think he will, because I think they'll realise that they're doing really well. They're still getting the Champions League football. They're getting very close. They're building a very good team and have got a good team. So I don't think it's a case of they have to win this season. But the problem is, if they finished in 4th or 5th or 6th, that would be a real problem. Finishing second, I think, and maintaining where they are, I think he would carry on keeping his job. But they have to win the league. You know, Declan Rice, Saka, players of that ilk, Ødegaard, they're fantastic players. Saliba, they're brilliant, brilliant players. They need to go on and prove now that they're trophy winners. That's the difference between being a really good player and a great player and deemed as being world class and deemed as being one of the Premier League greats, is when you go and win trophies. So those players that I've just named there, I think are fantastic players. Gyökeres and Zubimendi have joined as well, who can go and be great players for them as well.
Is Gyökeres the one that can really get them over the line, do you think?
Well, they need a centre forward. There was arguments last year that maybe they didn't need a centre forward. You need a centre forward. It's hard to play football without a striker. Not just because they might go and score goals themselves, which you hope they do, but also the impact of just occupying centre-backs. You know, if Gyökeres is in there, the centre-backs are going to be occupied, which means it'll make and create space for others. If you haven't got anybody to play against, you've got to be a hell of a player to be a number 10 and do what Mason Mount might do today or Havertz is doing. You know, the idea that people can just go and become strikers, you know, the reason they're not a striker in the first place is because basically as a kid they were deemed not to be good enough. So to then put them in a striker position as a sort of like a, you know, the peak of their careers at the height of this sort of league is not realistic. So that's why Manchester United have signed Šeško. That's why Gyökeres is at Arsenal, because they need these players and they need them both to succeed, both clubs.
Gary Neville, so interesting as always. Just to ask you one more. What's your favourite memory here in this fixture at Old Trafford?
My favourite memory, we beat them 6, which is very rare. I mean, some of the games here we got beaten. Obviously, quite a few famous games here. We lost the title here one year where Overmars scored over there. So I will mention the fact we had some really bad experiences. And I saw Freddie Ljungberg there before, who's obviously had some good experiences. But the best one, we beat them 6 one year here. And that was a brilliant game because you don't often get to play against a team of that quality and be 3-4-0 up and be able to relax. So it was just a nice day, and I think it was a sunny day as well. Quite early in the season, it felt like, maybe September.
You're already making some comparisons.
I'll take 4 today, not 6.
Gary Neville, thank you very much as always. What a game we have in store here at Old Trafford.